G'day guys, welcome back to another episode of the Betting Bad podcast. We've got a massive episode here for you guys. We're going to Madison Square Garden for the main UFC card this week. As always, got my co-partner Goodwill Punting. Mate, how are you?
Going really well, mate. Keen to get into it. We've got a massive card to get through. We've also got some racing to get through at the end of the show, but just more excited more than anything.
Massively. And as always, you partner in crime with the UFC. Got a couple of absolute guns coming here to try to tip some winners. Brock, you're back again, mate. How are you?
Mate, I'm back again. Thanks for having me back as well. As Will said, got a big UFC card, bit of racing to finish the day. I think I smell some winners this weekend.
I definitely smell some winners, boys. Definitely a couple of Group 1 racing last week, the Melbourne Cup. Didn't go our way, obviously. There was an $81 chance. Unfortunately, none of us would have tipped that unless it was in your last name Knight's choice. But first and foremost, we're going to Madison Square Garden, which is almost the pinnacle for a lot of people and a lot of athletes in terms of where they go and fight. It doesn't matter if you're fighting as well. You can go there and play ice hockey. Have any of you boys ever gone to Madison Square Garden?
I haven't. I've just watched it on the TV. You know, it's quite a spectacle there. Any event. Have you been there, Dino?
I have been there. Not as quite as the WrestleMania. I remember looking at the TV when they went to MSG. Vince McMahon used to G up, scream from his loins. I went there and watched ice hockey actually with someone that we're not going to mention, but we had a great time. It's going to be a great experience for a lot of these fighters. Will, we're going to get straight into it because I know you've been most excited about this card. There is some early prelims, so anyone for the early bird that gets the worm at 10 o'clock on a Sunday after you've gone through your walk all the way through Cronulla with Tilly, what are you looking at? Are you looking at anything there with the early prelims?
I am, mate. It's Oben Elliott and Basil Hafez. That's the only fight that I've really penciled in as one I wanted to watch. Oben Elliott, $1.45 at the moment. Hafez was $2.20. He's blowing out at $2.80 now. So there has been a bit of market movement in this one. Hafez, he's come in a couple close fights. He's won one, he's lost one. He hasn't been that impressive. Oben Elliott, he's 26 years old. He's on the come up. He's got the momentum behind him, and I think he's going to pretty much demolish Hafez over 3 rounds. I think he's going to win by decision, but I think Oben Elliott is just way too good for him.
It's a big statement to demolish Hafez, a guy who took JDM to the brink. Almost finished JDM. JDM, as people may know, one of the great Aussie fighters. Currently, almost probably one fight away from a title fight, maybe even the title fight in his next one, depending on injuries and whatnot. And as I said, he took him to the brink, and he reckons he demolishes him.
I think he does, and I think that you got to look at how he beat JDM. He took him down. Gilbert Burns, same method to beat JDM, or to take it close to JDM. He took him down. Hafez isn't going to take down Oben Elliott. Oben Elliott's wrestling's one of the best in that division. I don't think he's going to...
Best in that division?
I think so. Oben Elliott's really, really good, man. He's really good. He's coming up, and I think he's going to be a top 5 contender very, very soon.
A top 5 contender?
Bro, Oben Elliott...
A guy who's been hurt almost every single fight he's fought in the UFC.
I want you to watch this space. Watch this space.
Wow.
We'll come back to this when Betting Bad is huge in two years' time. And Oben Elliott will be up there. He's really good, man. And I think his wrestling is really, really good as well, which is why I think that Hafez's tactics of just taking someone down like he did with Mickey Gall and JDM, I don't think it's going to work.
So before I kick off as to why you're wrong, tell us what your bet is.
Oben Elliott decision.
Oben Elliott decision, okay.
There we go.
So coming into
Don't mind that, by the way.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts?
My thoughts coming into this fight, you know, I'm going to look at the JDM fight as a big marker for what a baseline Basil Hafez is. You know, he come on there very short notice. Obviously, cardio and tank's going to be out the window, and I think that probably was his biggest fault. If he even was halfway in a camp and went into that fight, he probably wins that fight. You know, no scratch on JDM. It's hard these short notice fighters. Tim Tszyu, you know, another great Aussie fighter, took a short notice fight and lost his belt. So they're no slouch, and it's a big risk for not much reward. But you know, he showed good striking. He definitely mixed it up with Hafez. There was points with JDM, and there was points where he was getting outstruck, but he definitely had some big moments and some moments that worried some Aussie fans, had me worried for sure in that fight. But coming into this with a full camp against a guy in Oben Elliott who, as mentioned earlier, has been hurt every single fight he's fought in the UFC. I know definitely in his Contender Series fight, he got hurt. He got hurt bad to the point where he almost finished a Val Woodburn fight. He got hurt and almost finished. Val Woodburn is someone who, again, lost to a guy on the card, Bo Nickel. Bo Nickel knocked Val Woodburn out in his first fight in the UFC, in Val's first fight in the UFC. But look, he's got good striking. He's got good enough wrestling to negate the wrestling of Oban. And Basil coming in with a W, I think even with a late finish. Like, as mentioned, Oban gets hurt. He gets hurt often, and Basil can get out on top with the finish. And at the odds of $2.80, as mentioned, the drift, I'll take the drift.
Sounds value. I think I've been swayed there by Brock. I think I'm going to side with him on the first fight of the night. Here we go. Might go out and grab some basil off the tree and sprinkle it on my brekkie at 10 o'clock in the morning. I think I like that one to get us kicked off the card. Now, we're going to go straight into the prelims, guys. Main event, obviously, John Jones and Stipe, but we've got to start it off with some absolute some great things going on.
What does the great Adam Sandler say? Today,
Junior. We can cut that out because I'm all talked out at this stage. It's going to be Jim Miller and Damon Jackson. Damon Jackson is, obviously it's the battle of the USA, Madison Square Garden, home ground advantage. Both very similar fighters. Boys, I'd love to obviously know what your take is on this one. I'll go straight to you, Goodwill. Who do you think on this one, mate?
It's going to be a close fight, I think. Jim Miller's $2.38 at the moment. Damon Jackson, $1.59. Damon Jackson, slightly younger. I think he's 36. Jim Miller's like 40 now. He is coming off a really bad loss against Bobby Green. He took Jim Miller to a decision, but Jim Miller was still getting pumped that fight. And I think that the damage you take at that age, at 40 years old, it's not the same as taking it when they're 26. And I think Damon Jackson, he's probably going to lay and pray. I think Damon Jackson's going to win the decision. I don't know what that's going to be. To win, it's, as I said, $1.59, but decision might only be $2.30, $2.40.
Yeah, I don't mind it. Thoughts? What do you reckon going on?
Look, I'm going to go against Goodwill here. I think Jim Miller gets it done. I know he mentioned the punishment at this age is, you just don't take it the same. And yes, I agree. But if Jim Miller was going to fade, he would have faded already. The man's been around for a very, very long time. He's had plenty of fights with some, elite strikers, fighters. He's got a win over Charles Oliveira early in his career. And coming into this fight, we got Damon Jackson, who isn't known for being a power puncher, isn't known for being a finisher of sorts, although he does have a KO finish in the UFC. I just don't see him doing enough damage, especially, as mentioned, looking at the Bobby Green fight, King Green fight. King Green threw everything at Jim Miller, and Jim Miller wouldn't go away. He was coming forward constantly, and we saw what happened when someone pressures Damon Jackson and pushes him up against the fence with Ilia Topuria. Ilia Topuria finished him, put him away. Really watered down Damon Jackson, and he was throwing pillows at the point of finish in that Ilia fight. So I see something similar happening with Jim Miller. Jim Miller's going to come forward. He's going to strike him. Damon Jackson's going to try and take him down, try and lay on him. But Jim Miller is no slouch. He's a decorated groundsman. He's had a lot of submission finishes in the UFC, and he's one of the great MMA BJJ artists. We've got great BJJ artists in the world, but when it comes to actually being a mixed martial artist and utilizing BJJ, it's a totally different ballgame. And Jim Miller's good at that. I think Jim Miller will keep it on the feet, and I think Jim Miller will get a late finish. I'm specking a round 3 KO.
Well, I think the bet will be to get your ass down in the pub and watch the fight, because I think it's going to be a cracker, like you said, especially them bantamweights. I do love them go around. So next thing on, all right, fire up, boys. We've got the main card at Madison Square Garden. Just imagine being there, not in Sydney. Just imagine being there. Just channel it in, because the first fight we got the lightweight. Now we got some Brazilians and a Peruvian coming in. Mauricio Ruffy versus James Alontop. Now, probably not one of the best names going around in the UFC, James Alontop. But unfortunately, he's up against a Brazilian who, by God, they can fight. I'll go back to you, Brock. Just give us your tip on this one, because this looks a bit tough for the Parisian, I think.
Yeah, look, Ruffy is touted as a big name in the UFC. There's a lot of... Look, him being on a card as $1, what is he, $1.10?
I think it's even less.
Maybe less, and he's fighting a bloke, and the other bloke's obviously $6. I've never heard of the bloke. I think the bloke's coming off 2 losses.
He's been from the Dana White Contender Series, and he hasn't won since then.
He wouldn't be...
This is his career.
Ruffy as a favourite would not be on this main card if he wasn't expected to do big things and go far in this company. So, you know, if you like bank interest, then putting your money on Ruffy is is the way to go this fight.
I think so as well. Ruffy by name.
Ruffy.
Of course, we were going to back the Ruffy.
Well, I don't back Ruffys often, but I'm backing Ruffy right now.
I do like Ruffy as well. I think that the only reason he's on this card, especially kicking off the card, is to get an early finish. He's coming from the Fight Nerds. Is that right?
I think so, yeah.
The Fight Nerds, yeah. He's been compared to Conor McGregor coming up. Like he's got that flow state fight style, and I think that he's going to put on a show. I don't know what the odds are going to be, but I'm going to be getting on Ruffy by first round knockout. Yep. I think that's almost a lock. Honestly, it might only be $1.40. It'll be very short, but yeah, if it wins, it wins.
Mate, if it wins, you don't go broke, back and winners. And I reckon what we could probably tip into, because the next fight's another couple of Brazilian. It's the chicks going on. Viviane, I'm not going to even try and pronounce her last name, Arajoa, I believe it is, versus Karine Silva. When I watched this, I think it's pretty much the same with Karine Silva. She looks like an absolute beast. I had her winning by submission very quickly, but look, what do I know? Will, I'll go back to you, mate. What do you reckon? Do you reckon we could double that one up?
No, I'll be honest. I haven't got too much on this fight. I know Karine Silva, she's got a lot of hype behind her, and they're saying that she could be the next champion. But I know I've watched Viviane Araújo's fights before. She's $3.23. If I had to back now, which, look, don't go crazy, but I'd go Araújo as a roughie. I think that Karine Silva's a little bit overhyped from the fights that I've seen, and Araújo can fight.
There we go.
She can throw him.
There we go. Nice and quick and easy. What do you reckon, Brock?
Look,
have you seen much of this? Or
I'm following the same method of what we just said in this last fight here, Dino, and backing you in here with the favourite. Like we've touted here some big fights. You've got John Jones on the card, arguably one of the biggest names in the UFC. If there's a platform, and Madison Square Garden, sorry, if there's a platform to ever have some prospects to come in to the UFC and put him in front of a lot of people, it's this fight here. So I think Karine Silva W for sure is another bank interest bet. And if you want to get a little fancy and speckle some on the sub, or I think you might be down the right alley there, Dino.
I reckon she doesn't mind wrapping her legs around people, and she might absolutely tap her out. But the next thing on the card, boys, because I'm not even going to go there because we're going live. How you going? How you going, darling? I love you. We'll go straight into the next one because this guy, I love him. Boys, I love him. I watch, not UFC, I don't watch as close as you boys, but Bo Nickel, since he's come into the UFC, he's been one of my favourites. He's up against Paul Craig, which sounds like some bloke could roll in and bowl fast, medium pace instead of getting into the cage. Paul Craig, he's lost his last 3 fights by KO or TKO. He's up against the homeboy, Bo Nickel. Who are we going here? I'll start with you, Brock. What's your thoughts?
Look, Bo Nickel is Bo Nickel. Bo Nickel should win this fight, and he should win this fight by lengths. But if there's a man to beat a killer, it is Paul Craig. Paul Craig has beaten Magomed Ankalaev. He's beaten Jamal Hill. He has beaten, who's the other name I'm thinking of? Nikita Krylov, who was meant to be on the...
Paul Craig?
Yeah.
He beat Ankalaev.
He beat Ankalaev,
Jamal Hill.
And, I said Ankalaev first. Magomed Ankalaev, Jamal Hill.
And he beat this bloke outside off.
And Nikita Krylov, who was meant to be on the prelim card, but his fight was one of the fights that got cancelled. And he's definitely a well-established fighter in the light heavyweight. Granted, they were at light heavyweight, and he has dropped to middleweight. But Paul Craig is just one of those guys who just shows up at the wrong times for people. And this is a big jump in class for Bo Nickel. He's coming off a win against Cody Brundage, which he probably, going into that fight, he should have demolished Cody Brundage. That was everybody's assumptions. And Cody Brundage, held his own and definitely made Bo Nickel look beatable, made him look human, which he hasn't looked human in these fights before. So Paul Craig, a big number. Paul Craig just going for a W. It's worth a small bet. But my play here is Paul Craig via sub. That's my play. It's obviously a small bet, and Bo Nickel, my whole UFC brain is saying Bo Nickel wins this fight, but I'd be crazy to not have a few dollars on Paul Craig sub.
You got the heart. Well, he's a BJJ up against a wrestler, so if he does sub him, it's going to be a hell of an effort from Paul Craig, and he'll gain a lot of confidence from it. Goodwill, your thoughts, mate?
Paul Craig's record. He's lost against he lost against Uzdemir. He lost against Walker.
Yep.
He won against Muniz. He then lost against Allen and Baralo.
Oh, yeah, 100%. I agree.
I'm with you on the submission. I think I think Paul Craig at $7 to win is crazy.
Yeah.
I think that if he's going to win, he's going to
I'm
do
pretty
a fluke
sure that was
submission.
longer than Cody Brundage as well.
I do like it as well. I am going to be chucking some money on Bo Nickel first round knockout. I think that if he's going to beat Paul Craig, he can honestly just chin him and beat him on the feet.
Yeah.
However, it's at $7 for Paul Craig, who's done this before to many fighters. It's like Bo Nickel, he's not invincible. He's not at that point yet. He's new to the game. He's not as experienced in those positions. You've got to throw something on Paul Craig by submission. It probably won't be much. It might only be like $9.
And the other point that I'll just throw out there, when he subs Ankalaev in the round 3, he come off getting absolutely demolished by Jimmy Crute, who is at best an average fighter so far. I think he's got a lot of potential. Aussie fighter as well, Jimmy Crute, if you're watching. I respect you.
Sucker.
But
huge fans of the podcast, by the way.
In his UFC tenure, he definitely had a prospect run for some time. But like Paul Craig come from an absolute demolition job from someone who's, Paul Craig's meant to be a BJJ black belt and get demolished by Jimmy Crute and then sub Ankalaev. I feel like coming off these losses, fighters maybe take him easy and think, Paul Craig got this. He's come down to middleweight. He's beat one guy, Muniz. Bo Nickel could really think he's got this one in the bag and, lay on him and think he's fine because he's a gun wrestler, and Paul Craig just subs him. Throws a triangle up, breaks his arm like Jamal Hill. Who knows?
Yeah.
There we go, boys. I'm going to go against both of you. Like I said, I do love Bo Nickel, and I think in front of his home crowd...
Suck him. Why don't you just suck him then?
All right. If it tastes like VB, I will. But he's lost his 3 fights by KO, TKO. That does put a bit of psychic in. I think the home crowd and MSG, I've talked it up all podcasts. I think he comes out and he's going to make a statement. I know his submission was about 220. I think he KOs him in rounds 1 or 2. That's my bet. But hey, what do we know? So we're moving on to the lightweight division. Talking about sucking off, this is like you were trying to suck off all podcasts. Charles Oliveira versus Michael Chandler in... I saw Michael Chandler come out and already try to pick his next 4 fights within the calendar year. Don't know how true that was. If it is, that actually probably spells disaster for himself. Don't like fighters already trying to fight another fight before they come up against a great opponent like Charles Oliveira. Goodwill, I'm going to have your take on this one first and foremost, mate. Who do you think has got the wood over who in a much anticipated fight?
Charles Oliveira is $1.38 at the moment. Chandler's $3.05. They're obviously the rematch from 2021 where Charles knocked him out in the second round. Chandler was winning that first fight though. He did get taken down. He got controlled on the ground, yes, but Chandler was winning that first round. And I guess he just got a little bit complacent in that second round. I think I've been listening to a lot of Chandler's interviews lately, ever since the Conor McGregor fight's been going on, and he keeps saying that he's changed his mentality, like he's understood the game a bit more and he's learnt lessons he should have. And I think that relates to him always being very erratic with his fighting. Like his coaches would always get frustrated the fact that he's, they have this game plan and he just goes out and just wants to war. I think you're going to see a much more patient Michael Chandler. And I think Chandler's actually going to spoil the party for Oliveira and the Oliveira-Islam rematch. I think Michael Chandler's going to win. My best bet of the card.
What?
$3.05.
Oh my god!
And has a sip after it. What a statement! Watching live,
If
everyone's just gassed.
If I was holding this mic, drop it.
No way.
Man, best look. Honestly, he's been training the whole time. He looks in best shape he's ever looked.
I think as a UFC fighter, most of them would be training.
But he's been off for 2 years and he has been training the entire time through.
Yeah.
Oliveira would be as well. Oliveira looks great in his last couple of fights, yes. Chandler has that power in his hands. I think if Chandler's patient and he actually follows his game plan, we haven't seen that for a long time. We haven't seen that probably since Bellator, and that was when he was fighting his best. I think if he can just take it easy, understand the fight, I don't mind a Chandler maybe around 3-4 finish. I could even see it going to decision. I could see Chandler honestly being that patient that he just goes to decision, or he just goes out and he gets fucking knocked out first round.
I got a feeling that Brock's got a different opinion.
Look, I'm following suit to a little degree. I do agree that I have watched a bit of takes on Chandler. He's talking about he's a changed man. He's going to be patient, rah, rah, rah. The only query that I have with this, I think Charles Oliveira is someone who you don't want to give time to. In a lot of his fights, he's shown that as the fight goes on, he gets a lot more technical. His striking gets crisper. He finds his range and he gets better. As we saw in just one round to the second round, He found his range, clipped Chandler, dropped him and finished him.
He's a bigger man.
He's a bigger man.
He's a much bigger man.
And he's a great fighter. He's someone who's been in the UFC for a very long time. As mentioned, got beat by Jim Miller early in his career. Was sad to be a big thing, but he had a lot of obstacles, a lot of hurdles. He is where he is now off a lot of hard work. And I think if I'm looking at value across this whole fight as a whole, not picking sides, for my first bet on this fight, it will be fight to start round 3, $2.45. I think that's a great bet. We got Chandler coming in saying he's going to be a bit more tactical. We got Oliveira, who at the end of the day only sort of gets these early finishes of guys coming in thinking that he's going to quit and I've got to pressure him.
Yeah.
Chandler's best chance is finishing him early. The only reason why he didn't win in that first fight is because he cutted it when he dropped him and he didn't get it on the ground and try and go for a finish. Islam showed that if you just jump on top of him and go to work, you can get the finish. Oliveira sort of struggles when he's hurt. He can sort of waver a little bit. So $2.45 to start round 3, I think is a great bet. That's only 10 minutes of fighting. He's got to get to round 3. I think that's awesome. But obviously, I do believe in Charles Oliveira. I do believe in the finish. And then also going off sort of what we've just said and start round 3, I got Oliveira 3, 4, or 5 KO.
If I could show you my notes right now, you'd be smiling. My notes were Michael Chandler best bet, but I was like, if Oliveira wins, it's 3, 4, 5 submission.
There you go.
I had
Submission.
submission.
Okay.
I had submission.
Yeah.
Well, maybe great minds, Gately and
Just, yeah.
Humpty Dumpty.
Yeah,
Works.
could do.
Look, 3, 4, 5 finish. Like Charles, there'll be a market for Charles 3, 4, 5 to win the fight without a submission or KO. So I like that.
Big fan of the round 3 to start. Massive fan of that. I didn't see that market. $2.45 you said?
is huge.
Massive.
It's
What does
huge.
it mean by that, though? For punters out there that are tuning in, because obviously the fight started in round 1. So, like, in terms of the fight starting in round 3, is that significant strikes within a round?
If the bell starts for round 3, then that bet wins.
Yeah,
so
right, okay.
I think round 2, even round 2, if we want to go shorter, to start round 2 is $1.56.
There you go.
Even like if we're looking at building a short price multi here, $1.56 multi or $1.56 to chuck in a multi is great to start round 2. We got round 2 last time. $1.56 is great odds.
So you're basically betting that no one gets knocked out or something
in the first round. Yeah, as long as there's not a finish in the rounds prior to round 3 or round 2 or whatever round you choose, then that's your bet.
There we go.
Yeah,
Well,
I love it.
a lot of insight there. Personally, I went Michael Chandler for the win. Wow. I just think this was, to be fair, it was a real tough one because I kind of put my hat up, like my thinking cap on for this one. I thought, if it goes 5 rounds, Charles is probably going to sub him because Chandler, from the last time I've seen, obviously listening to yourself, that he's changed up camps and his mentality. I just think he lost 3 years ago. That redemption on his mind, it weighs heavily on a bloke, especially guys who, fight in the UFC. They take that really personally. I think he's going to show him the fight, and I reckon he might knock him out in that 3rd. So that's my bet. I'm not going to take any rounds, but I'm just going to have him for the win. MSG, home crowd. That's what I'm going for.
One thing as well for that as well is that Trump's in the building. Chandler American. He's going to be fired up. He said he's got his dad in his corner as well. First time ever.
A home ground advantage. I tell you what. You haven't been there, boys. It shatters the MSG. It shatters. People cry. People get hurt. Anyway, main event, heavyweight. This is what This is what we love. I don't care what you're watching. Boxing, UFC, you love to see a couple of big boys go hammer and tong. And you've got the GOAT of the MMA and John Jones versus Stipe Miocic. Sorry if I've said that wrong, because he's also one of the great heavyweights. He hasn't fought in the last 3 years, but he had that absolute banger of a 3 series with Cormier. We all remember that. A couple of heavy hitters. Boys, everyone's going to be talking about this. I saw it on the Foxtel, the main event. Pre-order it now. We're going to be watching. Will, I'll start off with you, mate. John Jones and Stipe. Where are you leaning towards?
Look, if you had to have a bet in this fight, I mean, look, gun to the head, everyone's going to choose John Jones. That's just being realistic. But you've got to look at the markets as a betting man. And when you see Stipe Miocic at $5.75, I know Brock would have that same urge as me. The bells start going off. You start thinking, okay, like, is this heavyweight fighting? John Jones, yes, he's undefeated and he's going for greatness and everything like that, but Stipe Miocic can knock anyone out. He can. It's heavyweight fighting. I think it's a lot closer than what people are going to probably believe. Yeah. John Jones ran through Cyril Gane. That was quite easy. Cyril Gane's got no takedown defense. So that was probably likely going to happen. Miocic is a great fighter. He's old. He's 42 now, Brock?
He's old. I know that. He's old.
He's getting up there. However, I heard a few different stories from his camp. Not directly, obviously. I read them online. But he's apparently working on his submission attempts, Stipe Miocic. And
142.
someone from his camp has said that he's looking sharp. Stipe is looking best he's ever looked. They all say this all the time.
He's had 3 years off. I mean, it gives you a chance every
just
hope to look good, doesn't it?
I've just tipped Chandler after a couple of years off. I think I'm going to be tipping. I'm going to be sprinkling on Miocic. I'm going to go Miocic to win $5.75. I think it's crazy. I also don't mind Stipe Miocic by submission at $34.
You're thinking the goat of the MMA is going to get choked out, a wrestler, a Muay Thai, and a striker? With a 6 kilo weight diff?
I'm not going to go heavy on it. I'm going to go heavy on Stipe Miocic to win.
Yeah.
There's a market on Sportsbet, I know, and there'll be one on Lightning Bet as well, where you can choose Stipe Miocic by submission or points. That's $11.50. I like that one. If I had to do anything.
I like that too. If you're going to back him, I think that's the smart betting option. You know, you cover yourself on both bases. I mean, if you're backing someone in a main event at $1.10, it's not that exciting. So leaning the punters in a good way, because obviously, he's got the backing behind him. He's only lost 4 fights in his career as a heavyweight, Stipe. John Jones has that aura about him. Love to know your take, Brock. Are you leaning towards goodwill? You haven't been on the same trajectory in the last sort of 30 minutes, but
it's definitely...
It's a roughie.
He's
lured you in.
Like Will said, this fight is exactly what it is. John Jones, it's set up for John Jones to beat Stipe, and Dana gets to suck him off in the press conference and say how he's the greatest fighter ever and he's beaten the greatest heavyweight ever. But, looking at John Jones' tenor in heavyweight, he beat Cyril Gane, and I think we can all confidently say that John Jones did not get a fight in that match. Cyril Gane missed a kick. He got thrown up against the cage. He's got no ground game. He got out-wrestled by Francis Ngannou and reversed everything. Got absolutely demolished by Francis Ngannou on the ground. And Jones subbed him straight away. So he hasn't been fought at heavyweight, in my opinion. I know obviously he has faced an opponent, but he hasn't actually been tested. He hasn't actually been fought. He hasn't actually stepped into the waters of a true heavyweight. Now, Stipe, yes, he's had a long layoff, but he beat Daniel Cormier. Daniel Cormier is arguably one of the greatest fighters to ever be in the UFC, personally. Although he's a
handy commentator.
He is a handy commentator too. He's got beat by Jones twice, and his only blemishes on his record is really him and Stipe. And he's a hell of a fighter. And we want to look at wrestling and ground game. Stipe beat DC twice. DC is probably the most decorated, or one of the most decorated wrestlers in the UFC, apart from obviously Henry Cejudo with the gold medal in wrestling. Coming into this fight, he's had the long layoff. He's a fireman, so he's always going to be fit. He's never going to be just overweight and unhealthy.
Didn't know he was a fireman.
Yeah, he's a fireman in New
York.
York.
He did a 24-hour shift last Saturday.
In New York. He's a fireman.
Well, he's not going to be ready for the fight, is he?
He will be. He's pumping. He's pumping.
Let's go get a cat out of the tree.
Look, I think it's a fair argument that Jones should win this, yes. But the more I listen to, Stipe interviews and just watch Stipe fights, makes me excited. And I wouldn't be able to call myself a man if I bet on John Jones.
No.
So I'm not going to place a bet on him.
And Stipe's last loss was Ngannou. It was brutal. John Jones gets finished like that as well. But against Ngannou, John Jones gets finished like that. You look at that fight. The same.
Yeah, 100%. Ngannou beats both of these fighters. I think Ngannou, if he stayed in the UFC, is arguably one of the greatest MMA fighters of all time, greatest heavyweight of all time. Stipe in that fight, he hit Ngannou with a good shot and rushed in, I think just out of lack of knowledge. He looked like he sort of didn't know what to do with the game plan, especially once Ngannou stuffed his takedown. And he hit him with a good shot. Ngannou wasn't hurt, rushed in, he got banged, and yeah, it looked like he broke his knee in that finish. But coming to this fight, to get to where we are in Betting Bad podcast, so my bad bet for this fight, I've got a few to look at.
All right, get your notepads out, guys.
My two markets that I'll look at is Stipe via finish, and that's KO, and Stipe via points. So looking at the double chance as well, but I like the KO from Stipe. I think, like we said, Jones hasn't been hit before at heavyweight. Jones hasn't grabbed a heavyweight who actually can defend a takedown. Jones hasn't been in a clinch, hasn't been on the ground with it.
Because
he's obviously been
that
in
good.
Because he's that good. He's also fought nobody at heavyweight who can do that. And I think as well, if Jones comes in, we've seen Jones come in against guys who he's taken a little bit lightly in Race, Santos, Gustafsson won. He's had tough fights. And if there's someone to give Jones a tough fight, it's the greatest heavyweight of all time.
Yeah, there is the watch on, how Stipe going to perform after the big layoff. That's a massive watch. And look, he could honestly come out and it could look shit, the ring rust and everything. But, if Stipe Miocic is $2.50, $3, I don't think anyone's taking him.
Yep.
But with $5.75, and, you're getting, even for, as Brock said, knockout and points, I think that's $6. You've got to throw something.
There's value there.
There's value there.
Definitely value there.
He's about it.
I mean, there's 12 to 13 fights on the card. So if you've got a bit of kitty, hopefully we've tipped you in a couple of winners before that happens. So if you need them, I'm leaning towards, very compelling arguments, no doubt about that. I'm a bit more of a fairy tale man myself when it comes to it. When I saw John Jones has got 3 little star signs, when you play FIFA and your gun's got the 3 attacking, heading, finishing. This guy's got Muay Thai wrestling and striking. So I'm leaning with him to knock him out and win by KO at $2.20. I don't mind having 25 on that on my Sunday and just watching one of the greatest of all time go around again. Like I said, like a fairy tale. If you like a bit of value, though, I'm not going to lie, you've swayed me a little bit. You have swayed me a little bit.
John Jones got those 12 to 6 elbows back. He's been training those in camp.
If there's someone who can eat a punch, it's Stipe. Watch Stipe vs Francis 1 and bloody hell, that first round hurt me to the soul. And he ate some punches in that first round in the second fight too. So Stipe ain't no slouch, and I think the market is a bit disrespectful to Stipe and what he is.
Massively.
He had long layoffs between the Cormier fights, years, a year between, I think a year and a bit between. So I don't think he's
575 is disrespect.
Yeah, he's the greatest heavyweight, and Dana's absolutely milking the shit out of John Jones.
Of course he does.
Fuck me. It's really hurtful to watch. I can't fucking stand it. But sorry for the swearing there, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, there's heaps of ladies listening. A couple of blokes bash other blokes. Trust me. That's our target audience. What do you mean?
Yeah.
Well, that wraps it up. Anyone going to MSG, give us a shout out because that would be.
If anyone wants to pay for my ticket to the MSG, let me know.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it'd be sold out by now, surely. It would have been sold out ages ago. When is it? UFC309. That starts. We're going to go watch it, aren't we, Winghouse? I just got the late call up.
Yeah, Winghouse.
Podcast. Yeah. Thanks for that, by the way.
Yeah, 100%.
Fucking awesome. And get in here and go, hey, what are you doing Sunday?
I only booked it today.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, so it's not that late.
Okay.
No, not late.
Not that late. Well, that wraps up the UFC and the MMA card. Like I said, it's an outstanding card. Hopefully we tipped you in a couple of winners.
Gonna need a big kitty. If you're following us, we've had a few bets.
Well, that's the Sunday, and the beauty about that is we've got Saturday racing, and we do have Friday night racing, but we're not going to back too many winners on a Friday night. We're going to Saturday racing. Are we going to launch into that?
Brock, what do you like, mate? You got anything on Saturday?
What I like on Saturday? I've got a few things on Saturday.
We've got a couple of great things because obviously it's a Group 1 going on Saturday. There's a couple still going around. Spring's still happening. You got the Caulfield Guineas. You've also got a couple of the Rupert Stakes, I believe, at Caulfield.
Yeah.
Still some great value out there. The 3-year-old fillies. We'll kick it off, I reckon, with one of the biggest Group 1s on Sunday, the Caulfield Guineas. The Fave Elena from J-Mac. I don't know if you guys have seen, obviously how many winners did J-Mac get over the weekend? The carnival already. He's got like 11.
He ran well. And
11,
I was in a group chat and we were absolutely talking absolute trash on J-Mac. How shit of a jockey he is for how many good rides he has. Yeah. He actually put us to shame.
Who was that part of you?
I remember
I woke up and I literally looked at it and went, J-Mac's shit. And I was like,
look, there's an argument to say that if you give some of these other jockeys the rides that J-Mac has, they ride more winners. And I think there's a little bit of truth in that. I don't think J-Mac was or is what he was. I think there was a time when J-Mac was an absolute killer and if he had a $2 favourite, he'd put it to the sword and get that W. I think there's some contentious choices that he's made in his racing for the last little bit, but that's racing, and you can find a bad ride on any jockey.
Well, like he said, he goes, I've won 11, I should have won 15, I butchered 4. So, imagine being a trainer and hearing that, the one of the 4 that he's butchered. You'd be a bit filthy. But in saying all of that, for my tip in the Caulfield Schweppes 1,000 Guineas, I've actually gone against the fave. I've gone with a filly, Zay Tung, with Jamie Carr, the blue horse. When I looked at it, it was about $5 when it opened up at first markets. I reckon it's been slammed since then.
Slammed. $4 now, mate.
$4. I thought of that as much. I looked at that today, and I thought $5 was an absolute steal. So I'm going to have to tip it at $4 today for you guys. Look, this filly last start won against a lot of these horses that are going to run in the Guineas. The favourite only beat home one of the other horses. I believe it's Another Profit. So you could pretty much pencil a line through that because nothing was backing up after that horse. But most of the fillies have come out of the form line of Zay Tung. Earlier this prep, it had Sydney form, which is also one of the best forms you can have. It's only 0.9 or 0.7 lengths behind Manal. Was up against Amina, who obviously has Fangirl form. So I think that form for itself in Barrier 4 with Jamie Carr is something I'm very, very heavy on, especially around Caulfield as well. We know how much Caulfield can have the mindset of the horses. So many good horses go to Caulfield and haven't run. The favourite hasn't run at Caulfield, so I'm hoping it doesn't like the track because it stormed in last start. And I think Zay Tung at $4 is probably one of my best bets of the weekend.
Yeah, I think it's a good spot in the market. It's a deserved second favourite. You got Alina, is that right? As the favourite, that's the one you mentioned. As said as well, a lot of the form lines have come from Zay Tung. You got Gigi's Miss Truth, Two Darn Lizzie. There's a few others in the market as well that have come from there. Yeah, apart from the two favourites, you don't really see too much sort of coming forward. If anything else wins, it's definitely going to be having the race of its career for sure. So I do like Zay Tung to push through on that one too.
Yeah, I think I'm with you boys. Zay Tung, it's a 2-horse field really by the markets anyway. $3.40, $4 for Zay Tung, and the next best is $11. So I haven't had a good look at this one, but I feel like it's in between the first two, and you boys know your stuff. You guys are on fire.
Well, the blue horse won for us last weekend, so it's hard to go against a Godolphin. And yeah, well, I mean, it's a Group 1, so hopefully the track plays well. I looked at the weather. It's going to be 32 degrees and sunny at Caulfield, so hopefully there's no track bias. It's nice and firm on ground, and the best horse in the race wins. Caulfield as well. I've got another tip here for you boys. Well, like I just said, in terms of the Caulfield track, I like the horses that run there. I'm tipping a horse that hasn't run at Caulfield. I think it's actually just the class horse of the race.
Yeah.
Ferrari race 5 for Caulfield. Now, you boys probably have a laugh about this because we joked about Lempicker. Lempiker's in that race.
Lempicker is in that race.
Shouldn't have told him.
Had a look.
Lempicker's in that race, so that gave me a good cackle. I thought Ferrari's last start at Flemington, you can forgive it. Down the 1,100 metres, the straight, there's no turn. A lot of horses can wig out. Imagine, you're driving on one side of the road, then you go to the other and you don't turn. So, when I went to America, I freaked the fuck out because I was on the other side of the road. So I think, you can forgive the horse for, wigging out a little bit, not actually getting into its stride. At $3.20, when I looked at it, if it can handle Caulfield, which is the big query for me, so I'm not going to make it my best bet because if it can handle Caulfield, I think it wins. And then if it doesn't, then you'll probably see it, come. It won't win. So, but I do like the horse. I think it's got a lot of class, and I think the class might just get it home.
Yeah, as mentioned, I think Flemington's not for everybody. Obviously, with the premium horses and the top level horses, they'll perform at any track. But when it comes to the sprinters, it's just like the Valley. Some horses just can't run the Valley. Some horses just can't run the straight. It's just the pack's not as tight. You got some horses on one rail, some horses on the other. Sometimes they run in the middle. Some horses need the rail as that guide.
Yeah.
So it's definitely an interesting one to run at for the horses, and it can be quite tricky. So if it can run it at Caulfield, I know it hasn't been there before, but as you mentioned, it did get spun out last start, but I do back it in. Favourite there too as well, right?
I'm not too sure. Is that the favourite?
Ferrari? Should be 340 or something, 330.
Surprised you stayed clear of Holy Racket. It's 1/3 up before.
Holy Racket.
$10.
That was what I tipped in that Lempicker race.
You did, and I just had Testa's birthday, so I'm staying away from Holy Racket.
Holy Packet? Grant Hackett?
I don't know about that one. What?
Do not condone.
But it is, yeah, gamble responsibly. But yeah, I reckon that's my Caulfield tips. Do you have anything at Caulfield, Brock or Will?
Nah.
Yeah, well, I do. Sorry,
No, I said not me.
Don't you have one at race 10? Or?
I've got a couple at I've got two at Caulfield, if that's all right. If you don't mind going.
Oh,
through.
we got the other Group 1.
We do have the other Group 1.
Yeah, so
let's kick off with kick off the big race first. We've got the Group 1. We've got the Rupert. Is it the Rupert Stakes? I believe.
Rupert Clark Stakes.
There
Rupert
you go.
Clark
It's not
Stakes.
Rupert Murdoch.
Rupert Murdoch. The Rupert Murdoch Stakes. Rupert Stakes. We've got a few in the race, and as theme to myself, I am going to go wide in the market. I've got a few there that I've marked down, and the things that I like are around $19, $20, and I have selected one to sort of be the one to pick. Now, it is a bit tough with these horses. The horses that I have selected are coming from a wide draw, and I say that is probably why they are so wide. I think if they were in closer, they'd probably be around that $8 mark, $7 mark, maybe around the $10 mark as well, just touching double figures. But the horse I'm going to go with this week is a horse that I think, although it is wide, it will still map well enough because I don't think there's enough speed up front, and that's Tuvalu. Now, Tuvalu is a proven horse.
Don't mind it.
He's proven first up and proven at the grade. It's run in group races before, and I'm pretty sure it's won a Group 3 or 2 before as well. I'm going to throw a limb out there and say it has.
Well,
now it's coming in at 21.
Check your form guide, John.
and it is. Well, last
it's won somewhere.
Last prep, it's run in a Group 1, 2, and 3 races in its last prep.
Yeah.
Now it's coming from barrier 15. Tough, granted. 57 kilos on board, and the wide draw is tough. But I think you got Gentleman Roy, which is another one that I do like, and then I think there's another two that are looking to push up off the speed map. And I think Tuvalu will be able to push up and get to the spot. And the thing that really pushed me over the edge on these front runners, because I did have my eyes on Miocic, but I just think it's not going to get a really poor map, is the fact that the rail at Caulfield will be at 6 meters, the entire track. Now, say there's no bias, 6 meters is a good enough bias for me. Say there is a bias at Caulfield, which usually there is for the front runners, and the track's 6 meters on top. Dare I say it, the front runners are going to have a nice trot up front when it come around that bend. So I think Tuvalu get there at odds is a nice bet.
That's a good roughie. I reckon that might be the roughie of the day almost. I do like Tuvalu. I did say that it is a proven winner. So a very tough race. I was scratching my head on this one. I do think if I'm having a bet in this one as well, you got to look for value. Look, another Will and Jimmy Star. I mean, if you've been on them all prep, if you're a punter, look, I wouldn't be steering you clear. If you've been on another Will or prep, you just back it. But we haven't. So I'm going to go around some Everest form. I think Southport Tycoon at an each-way value for me was the one that kind of stood out. Beat Growing Empire, which was brave in the Everest. I think Southport Tycoon's best. Distance is where it's at. It got well back last start and ran on very well. Barrier 13, I believe it's not going to be ideal. That's why I'm going to lean towards an each-way bet. But I think it might, with the right run of the race, it might have an each-way value, and I'm going to have something small. I'm not going to declare it or anything, but I think Southport Tycoon for me, and I don't mind Tuvalu as well. I think they're the two best rated horses in the race.
Yeah, they are the toppies.
The two toppies. So that goes a long way in terms of obviously their class.
They certainly are, boys, but I feel like the favourite's getting a little bit dismissed here. Jimmy Star. I know we're looking around him, and I think we're looking around him for some value. Yep. Jimmy Star, he's 3 from 3 at the track, 2 from 2 at the track and distance, barrier 1.
Yeah, he's a good horse.
He's a great horse. And I think $3.10, I know it's short for a tough race like that, especially with another Will, $3.50, but...
Surprising I haven't been on another Will all prep.
No, I backed it once and it won, and then I just thought I'm backing stupid because of my name, and then...
Well, it turns out it's an absolute gun.
Yeah, I know. Oh, that's usually the way it goes.
Yeah.
So...
I've had a look at Jimmy Star, and the reasons for me playing around Jimmy Star is that it's come out of a 1400 at Flemington. I'd say Flemington is arguably the best track for horses coming around the outside and running over him, and it just didn't get there. I know it was close, but it was 1.3 lengths off him in that race, off another Will. And coming to 1400 with a six meter rail out and a potential track bias as it is at Caulfield, I just think it's going to be a little too late for Jimmy Star as well coming around.
I think we smell a bit of a box Quinella or a box trifecta.
And barrier 1 as well, might I add. So if it's going to be coming from deep out of barrier 1, it's going to be tough at Caulfield.
Yeah, hopefully, I said it's going to be 32 degrees at Caulfield. Hopefully the track does play true. Got some more. I got a couple of more tips as well for the weekend. I think we're going to actually upload a few more for people to follow instead of just having a couple here and there. And our bets today, obviously, we're doing this on a Wednesday, whatever time it comes out. So only trying to tip in a few things here that you can maybe sink your teeth into before the market does tumble. But I got something at Newcastle. This is going to be the premier race for the New South Wales sort of Metropolitan. You know, they're playing it. Well, they're running at Kembla, but I think all the good jockeys are going up to Newcastle. They do have their Herald Hunter as well, which is an absolute ripper of a race. You got the Kosciuszko winner, Far Too Easy, going up there, which is deserved favourite 380. Private Eye, who was in the race we just talked about, got scratched, has gone up there and is $6.50, which is absolute value. I think it's going to be. I'm going to have 2 bets in this race because I also do like Briasa. I've black booked this horse. It should have won when it went into town. Was 4 wide with Zach Lloyd on it, and it stuck on. Only got lost by 0.5 of a length. So I know it's progressing up a grade, and when you come up against a horse that's running the Everest like Private Eye, I'm going to have 2 bets in this, but I'm going to lean towards having a bigger bet on Briasa than Private Eye. I think Private Eye at 650 can back it each way and maybe have it as a Quinella. But yeah, I do like Briasa. It's a nice chestnut gelding. It's got a lovely grey look to it, and it's a hell of a race, boys. If you've got a Kosciuszko winner and an Everest runner going up to Newcastle, I mean, Joey and the boys would be having a field day up there. That's where I'm leaning. I'm going towards Briasa, but, you know, it's very hard to argue Private Eye at 650. Will, what is that paying now?
Briasa, $2.70 fave. Been smashed in from 4s. The next favourite after that, Far Too Easy at $4. Wide Barrier, Far Too Easy, $13.
Briasa's into 270.
$2.70. Private Eye, $7.50.
Fair income.
Changing your opinion, are you?
Well, I don't think Briasa's a 270 shot, but when I looked at it today, it was $4. I'm still gonna back it. I think it
wins.
But don't take the 270 now. Don't take fixed. Wait till the day the totes. I mean, people are betting. I'd be backing everything top tote on a Saturday if you don't have any bet returns anyway. But yeah, have you looked at that race, boys? Or
yeah, I'd say look, you know, I like my odds. I like them long. I like them big. I like them double figures. I'd be taking a track specialist in Coal Crusher.
I think I won the race last year.
Yeah, I think it's gonna probably get a good spot up front. Doesn't seem like to be too much speed up there. I know it's come from a wide draw, but has overcome it before. Will overcome it again, and yeah, I think it'll be good enough. Like I said, it's 1-2 at the track, and I think 2 placings out of 4 starts. So
yep.
That's hard to argue with there.
I mean, that's a good bet. I believe it did win it won the race last year. So there's plenty on value. I mean, yeah, I don't think Briasa at 270 is a play at the moment at all. So if you're looking at each way value, then you've got a couple of bets there, and I don't mind Coal Crusher. There might be a little bit of an exotic.
Maybe an exotic.
Maybe
like
an exotic bet going on.
I'm a big fan of Private Eye each way. I like yours.
Exotic dancers.
Private Eye, great horse. It's won a few when I've been on, and I feel like $7.50 it might overcome the Wide Barrier, 14, and Jay Ford can get it across.
I mean, it's dropping back a hell of a lot of class, and the owners have scrapped it from Melbourne to go back to Newcastle. So yeah, I'm leaning Private Eye each way, and gee, the favourite, you wouldn't leave it out of everything because it's only had 6 starts, 5 wins. It's going to be a superstar.
Got beat half a length off Straka, so good form to go into.
It's a superstar. It will definitely be. Any more tips? I got one of the get out stakes late at Ascot. Anyone else got anything?
I've got the get out stakes at Newcastle. Actually, now this is a black booker I've followed from Flemington. From the Flemington Carnival, Melbourne Cup Day.
Last week.
Yeah, just last week, yes. Sold horses. I know it hasn't been long. No, from the last start. I blackbooked it after the last start. Now, as we do know, there was, towards the end of the day especially, there was a bit of a heavy bias at Flemington that day for the Melbourne Cup. And this horse is a horse that does like to run from the back, and it definitely still made some good ground in its last start. It's called Amur. It's number 7. and it's running in at $18 in the last start. Now, coming out of this race, like I said, it was a tough race to get into for any of the back markers. A lot of the heavy favourites and anyone who sort of drifted in that day were horses up front. So with the Mer coming into this race, and reason why I'm following is I just think the work that are put in against the bias to dig through that ground is deserved more than $17. It's coming from obviously City going to Newcastle. I know Newcastle was the premier track that day, but I think going off what we saw on the weekend, on the Tuesday just gone, well, not Tuesday just gone, but Tuesday in the week prior.
Melbourne Cup Day.
Melbourne Cup Day, that's the one. That's what I was looking for. A Mer can be in with the finish. The query of obviously being at Newcastle and not being a mainstay track is obviously they are a bit tighter.
It's a tight track.
And, I think we've seen... Well, a few years ago, Osborne Bulls lost a few at Newcastle where they should have won from just...
Don't even remind us of Osborne Bulls.
The same. I think there was a few hundreds on Osborne Bulls. Shout out to Jack Riley.
More than hundreds.
Thousands.
But look, from what I can see with the mapping, there isn't too much up front to put too much pressure. So I will expect a few other horses that sort of will look to change up some tactics to be one of the leaders, and I think we're only 7 wide from the inside of the gate, and we should still get a good spot. And hopefully, knowing that we are going to be sort of on a tight track. Who's the jockey? If you can throw me,
Timmy Clark.
Timmy Clark.
He knows how to get him out in front.
Yeah, notorious up fronter.
Yeah.
Although in saying that, I did back him on Shoals in that Everest, and he stole money from me.
Well, I don't think he did. I think the horse did.
The butcher. No, he butchered that one.
I did have a look at this one. There is a horse I like in this one. It's the third fave, Uzziah. It's ridden by...
Does Usman Khawaja own that horse?
I was going to say, is he coming? Is he out of the 1 or 2 gate?
He's barrier 4. Molly Burke's on board, the apprentice, and she's getting an apprentice claim. It's already 53.5 kilos. It's going to ride around at 51.5. Wow. It's 10s into 7s at the moment. Although she's an apprentice, with her on board, it's had 4 starts for 2 wins and a second. So it's definitely up there. It's come close a lot of the time, and that was kind of my each-way pick if I had to pick one.
Well, there we go. You got a couple of each-way picks at the get-out stakes at Newey. Wish we were going up. We've got to take a trip away somewhere, boys.
Birdsville Cup.
Birdsville Cup. I've heard it goes off. I knew a couple of boys on a punters trip, and they literally went to Birdsville in the plane, and they just cleared out Jetstar, and with all the grog before they even started going over Uluru. They weren't too happy, but I suppose when you go up to Darwin, no one's that happy.
When in Rome?
Yeah, when in Rome, may as well go. I've got to get out stakes here in Ascot. It probably doesn't sound like such a great tip because, it's Willie Pike in the get out, but it's race 7. They didn't have a market up when I was looking at this, but this horse has absolutely outstanding form. I'll get the name for you boys in a second. I've got more cards over here than anything.
Oh, right.
Well, I did my research today. You made me host today, so I had to make sure I was on point. But race 7, number 12, Yonga Lass. This race is at 7:55. So if you still got your wits about you, it's had 6 starts at the track for 3 wins. 1 from 1 at the distance. It won its last 2 trials before it came 5th last start. Goes back to Ascot. It's got the Willie Pike and the Grant Alana Williams combo. Not a massive fan of back and Pike all day at Ascot, but you got to pick and choose, and I think this is one of the ones where you can pick and maybe launch at.
What's it called?
It's called Yonga Lass, number 12, race 7.
Race 7.
Race at Ascot. Well, Willie Pike is a big
$5.50. There you go.
Is a big time winner in the last.
I don't mind it. I think if you back him all day, obviously that's what everyone does over in Ascot instead of looking at the form. Had a look at the form. I think this horse is it's probably one of their premier races. So there's a couple of really good horses there. I think there was one, I can't remember the name, that really grabbed my eye. That's handy on the podcast. But there was one there, Aztec Ruler, I believe.
Yeah, $8.50.
Aztec Ruler grabbed my eye, but I'm going with the Pike in the Grant Alana Williams combo. I think if you're sitting there at 7:55 and you've ordered a pizza or you're out in the town, doesn't matter what you're doing, have a bet on. And I think it'd be a nice little. Well, if it's $5.50, you can have a heavy bet on for the win, or you can just go each way and try to get the kitty for the UFC.
Beautiful, mate. I think that's us, boys. Have we got anything else?
No, I think that's it. Obviously, as Dino said, we'll throw a few more extras. I've got a couple extras, but I just want to sort of wait to see how the market plays out. Maybe even wait for a bias to fall on the day, but maybe throw some bets out on Saturday and get some exotics up.
What I reckon we'll do as well, lads, I think this weekend, to keep us honest and to keep the fans, I guess, completely transparent, is maybe do some units this week as well, just to see how we go. Maybe if we cover, the UFC, and we also, we put all our bets together, and whatever we do, one unit on each kind of pick. We'll do a few full unit breakdown, and then maybe for the races as well, just so we can keep ourselves accountable and keep the fans, I guess, in the loop.
Yeah, 100%.
Oh, jinx under a roof. Oh shit!
Have a skull. But it's a good idea as well. Make sure want to lean in the punters in everything we're saying as a sure thing, because we
could get found out pretty quickly.
We could even up the stakes a little bit. Maybe offer the worst punter for the weekend. Maybe has to do a challenge as voted by the viewers. Maybe.
Yeah. Okay. So we do a poll on Instagram. Maybe sometime early next week with the loser, and we have a list of punishments. We have 4 punishments.
Yeah. Whether we create a list of something that they got to do, or we get a viewer voted thing. Maybe we get a dunk tank, get the viewers in to throw some balls at the dunk tank.
Jock's got one out the back.
But also,
got a chili farm as well.
Oh, maybe chili in the eye or something like that.
Yeah, there's a few things
we've got to think about that as well, because you could just tip one winner and get the winner. But we'll have a think about it. Yeah, definitely a poll up. So who's going to butt chug live next live stream?
Let's get into it.
Let's get into it, boys. We'll
take us home, Dino.
Well, hopefully everyone. I learned a lot about the UFC today. Not going to lie. Like I said, hopefully everyone got informative about a couple of bets. It's fun as always with you boys. Haven't done this a couple of weeks, so enjoy the weekend. Make sure you sign up to Lightning Bet as well. Walter, the code. It helps us. It helps you. Think about it like this. If you've got like 12 different betting agencies, betting apps, if you don't like them, go have a look. It doesn't really matter if you don't stay with them, but just go give it a try, because I had a bloke come up to me the other day and go, mate, I've been on Sportsbet, Ladbrokes, Neds. They're all shit. But I went on a Lightning Bet. It changed my life.
Mate, it does. And can I tell you one thing? This is not a promotion they do with just ourselves, because we're part of the Betting Bad guys. But they do one with everyone, which is every day they do a strike to win. I don't know if you've seen this, but I did on Saturday. It happened Friday, and it happens Saturday and Sunday as well. You strike to win. It gives you a random deposit match up to 40%, 50%. It gives you a weird number. It might be like deposit 175, get 60% bonus. But it did it to me, and it did it to a good friend, Callum Leach, as well. So happens to everyone. Get on board.
Eats.
Strike to win.
Eats. Strike to win.
I like it.
Enjoy, guys.
See you guys.
I'll be... I'm going to say, fuck, we're going to court.